You check your phone 40 times a day. Most of what you see is fine, forgettable even. But your brain doesn't remember the 40 fine things. It remembers the one cruel comment, the one bad review, the one photo where you look tired and someone said so. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You are running software that is at least 200,000 years old. And it was never designed to make you happy. It was designed to keep you alive. Think about the last time something good happened to you. A compliment, a win at work, a perfect sunset. How long did the good feeling last? Now think about the last time someone criticized you. How long did that stay?
Psychologists have a name for this. Roy Baumeister, a social psychologist at Florida State University, spent years studying why bad experiences seem to outweigh good ones in nearly every part of human life. In 2001, he and his colleagues published a paper with a title that became famous in psychology circles. They called it "Bad is Stronger Than Good." Their conclusion was simple and a little unsettling. Across relationships, money, health, and memory, negative events affect you more than positive ones of the same size. A single harsh word can undo a dozen kind ones. A single financial loss can outweigh several equal gains. This isn't a flaw in your personality. It's a pattern in everyone's. So, where did this pattern come from? Go back further, much further. Picture a savanna in East Africa around 200,000 years ago. You are not reading this on a screen. You are standing in tall grass, and the wind just shifted. Somewhere nearby, something moved.
In that moment, your brain doesn't pause to consider the odds. It doesn't calculate that the rustling grass is statistically more likely to be wind than a predator. It assumes danger first, because the cost of being wrong is not symmetrical. If you assume there's a threat and you're wrong, you've wasted a few seconds of adrenaline. If you assume there's no threat and you're wrong, you're dead. This is the asymmetry that built your brain. Researchers call it negativity bias, and one of the clearest demonstrations of it came from psychologist John Cacioppo, who studied how the brain physically responds to positive and negative stimuli. Using EEG recordings, Cacioppo and his colleagues found that the brain's electrical response to negative images was measurably stronger than its response to equally intense positive images. Same intensity, different reaction. The brain was built to lean toward the bad news. For most of human history, that lean kept people alive. The humans who didn't flinch at rustling grass, who shrugged off strange noises, who assumed the best about every situation, didn't get the chance to pass on that optimism. The anxious ones did. The ones who noticed the threat first, who remembered exactly where the predator had been seen, who stayed alert even when things seemed calm.
You are descended from the worriers, not the daredevils. The worriers survived long enough to have children, and their children inherited the same alert, scanning, threat-detecting mind. Here's where it gets stranger. Your brain doesn't just notice threats faster, it stores them differently. Neuroscientist James McGaugh, who spent decades at the University of California studying memory consolidation, found that emotionally intense experiences, especially frightening or distressing ones, trigger the release of stress hormones that essentially stamp a memory in more permanently. Fear doesn't just get noticed, it gets engraved. This is why you can recall in vivid detail an embarrassing thing you said in the 6th grade, but you'd struggle to remember what you had for lunch 3 Tuesdays ago. Your brain wasn't being cruel when it kept the embarrassment and dropped the lunch. It was doing exactly what it evolved to do. It was filing away a social threat for future reference, in case the situation ever repeated itself.
200,000 years ago, this made sense. Social standing in a small group wasn't just about feelings, it was survival. Getting exiled from your tribe could mean starvation, exposure, or death. So your brain treated social pain, embarrassment, rejection, criticism with the same urgency as physical danger. It still does. This is why a single bad comment under a photo can ruin your whole afternoon, even surrounded by 100 kind ones. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's running a threat detection system built for a world that no longer exists. Consider what that ancient world actually looked like. Small bands of perhaps 20 to 50 people. Constant exposure to predators, disease, and environmental danger. No hospitals, no police, no safety net beyond the group itself.
In that world, a brain tuned to notice the bad over the good wasn't pessimistic, it was accurate. Threats genuinely outnumbered safe moments in terms of consequence. Missing one good opportunity cost you a meal. Missing one real threat cost you your life.
So your ancestors who survived weren't the most cheerful, they were the most cautious. And caution, repeated across thousands of generations, doesn't stay a habit, it becomes architecture. It gets built into the very structure of the brain, into the speed of certain neural pathways, into which signals get prioritized before you're even conscious of receiving them. Now, fast forward. The predators are mostly gone. The food is, for most people reading this, reliably available. The physical dangers that shaped this wiring have mostly disappeared from daily life. But the wiring didn't disappear with them. Your brain still scans for threats. It just had to find new ones, and it found them in places your ancestors never imagined. An unread message that might mean bad news, a notification that spikes your heart rate before you even open it, a comment section, a performance review, a text that says, "We need to talk," with no further explanation. None of these will kill you. Your brain doesn't know that. It responds to a passive-aggressive email with some of the same machinery it once used for a genuine predator. The amygdala, the small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain responsible for processing fear and threat, doesn't distinguish well between a lion in the grass and a harsh reply from your boss. Both register as danger. Both trigger the same cascade of stress hormones, the same flood of cortisol and adrenaline, the same narrowing of attention down to a single point. This is why bad news spreads faster than good news, why outrage gets more engagement than joy, why an entire industry of headlines has learned, whether consciously or not, to exploit a 200,000-year-old survival reflex. Every alarming headline is, your eyes find the threat before your conscious mind decides to look for it. This happens in a fraction of a second, faster than you can control, faster than language itself. Consider how this plays out in something as simple as conversation. You leave a meeting where 9 people praised your work and 1 person offered a single piece of criticism. Which one do you replay on the drive home? Which one do you mention to your partner that night? It's almost never the praise. The mind doesn't weigh these things equally because it was never built to. It was built to ask one question above all others. What in this moment could hurt me? And criticism to a social animal has always counted as a kind of danger. This same mechanism shapes how you remember relationships. Ask someone to describe a friendship that ended, and they will often recall the final argument in painful detail, while the years of ordinary kindness that preceded it blur into something vague and unspecific. The ending overwrites the middle. The wound becomes louder than everything that came before it. This isn't because the good years didn't matter. It's because your brain, even now, allocates more storage to pain than to comfort. So when you replay an argument in your head for the 10th time, or lie awake reconsidering something you said 3 days ago, you're not overthinking by accident. You're running a very old, very efficient alarm system. It just doesn't know the building isn't on fire anymore. Does this mean you're stuck? Not exactly. Knowing where the wiring came from doesn't erase it, but it does change your relationship to it. The next time a single criticism outweighs 10 compliments in your mind, you can recognize what's actually happening. Not a personal failure, not proof that the criticism was the most important thing said to you that day. Just an old system, doing what it has always done in a world it was never built for. There's something almost humbling in this. The very same trait that makes you spiral over a curt text message is the trait that once let a small, slow, physically unimpressive primate outlast saber-toothed predators, ice ages, and famine. Negativity bias isn't a design flaw passed down by accident. It's a tool that worked so well it outlived the threats it was built for and kept running anyway, because that's what survival traits do. They don't know when to stop. Psychologists who study this bias are quick to point out something important. Negativity bias isn't a glitch to be ashamed of. It's a feature with a history. It kept your ancestors alive long enough for you to exist at all. The same alertness that makes a harsh email ruin your afternoon is the same trait that once made a human pause at a rustling sound and live to tell the story, walk home, and pass that same caution on to you. Your brain isn't pessimistic by accident, it's cautious by design.
The question was never really why your brain leans toward the negative. The question is what you do once you know why. And maybe that starts somewhere small. The next time your mind hands you the one bad thing and buries the 10 good ones, you don't have to believe it's telling you the whole story. You can notice the old alarm going off and recognize it for what it is, an ancient signal ringing in a world that no longer needs it the way it once did. Tonight, you'll check your phone again. Most of what you see will be fine, forgettable even. But for the first time, you might notice your brain reaching for the one thing that wasn't. And this time, you'll know exactly why.